So just a brief explanation of how this is going to work at first. You're going to actually breathe through your mouth. You know, it's the most breathing techniques they talk about, you know, breathing through your nose. What the issue is that if you're trying to remove energy from the lower area, the lower body, the quickest way to do it is through the mouth because you can take in more air. And then once you feel energy getting to your neck, then you can switch to breathing through your nose. That all is based on if you can get the energy that high. In addition to that, the lower body is synonymous with the lower nature. According to the teachings, even the pyramid has 3 chambers. The lower chamber was never finished because it is representation of the animal body and the animal kingdom, transcending animal desires. Also, Brittany, you want to come in here and sit down on the...
Why, sure.
Okay. You want to get in there?
Excuse me.
Recline on those pillows?
Okay.
All right. So, the middle is correspondence to the angelic and the demonic. You know, whatever your polarities are and whatever you're titling them as, going to war. So that's the center part of the body for the balance of what's going to go on in your overall consciousness. So when you're bringing the energy up from below, you're actually rising out of the animalistic nature, and then you're bringing it into now making its transcendence. There's some resistance that goes on in the center area of the body. And then as you raise it higher, now you're in what they say is the realm of the master. This is, of course, all inclusive to yourself. So you get into that realm, obviously you bring the energy up there, you'll start experiencing things that are related more to the higher levels of thought. Naturally, because we're subject to gravity, the energy is always going to go down. You'll notice that the moment you take a break, the moment you go to sleep, also when you wake up in the morning, you notice that you're not all the time just ready to go somewhere. And that's because the energy needs to be brought back up. But it's not just your physical energy and your circulation, it's also your spiritual energy. So you do want to make a point, if you can, if you have time, and that's what this technique is about, is showing you how often you have to actually engage in these techniques. Pete, could you do me a real good favor, brother, and bring me that stool that's over there?
Yeah.
Thanks. So, once again, you're going to start taking about 10 complete breaths from your mouth, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Dang, this thing that's a real trick. Okay, so the first thing is the posture. When your legs are cocked, see, naturally I'm like this. It's just, you know, some people are there, they have that thing going on one of them. Obviously, you want to bring your legs straight and even. We've talked about this even with the pelvis. And this is because the coccyx is closed when you're like this. And it opens slightly when you're like this. Put your feet like this. So this allows the energy actually to flow through. Same thing also if you're locking your knees, it keeps the energy from flowing through. So you want actually the knees to be not necessarily bent, but not locked. So straight. Let's see, is there any more things I need to make sure that I discuss about this? Okay, so also, the thing is that we're breathing backwards. So in most cases, a person's breathing in their chest. So when they breathe, you see their chest generally, and then really they're supposed to be where the stomach is coming out. So an easier way to make sure that you're breathing properly is to just practice that technique. And watch your hand go in and out. Now the interesting thing is this actually works better if you do have someone to assist you with this at first. Because not only can they hold that hand there, like, let me see a breath in or breath out first. Okay, here's another thing. If you can hear your breathing, you're not breathing properly. You can actually breathe silently. Now, as silent as possible. If you find yourself, you know, some people, they get into it. Actually, the person that taught me this, and it sent me right to the moon right away. I would hope to go further. It was really a thing to where I had to, they were like, hey, you know, I don't want to hear your breathing. Because that means also you're putting too much restriction on your breathing. So it's much more difficult out of the mouth. But out of the nose, you shouldn't hear anything. But obviously we're starting with the mouth first. So he's going to take 5 quick, not quick, but he's going to take 5 breaths at the same length. And we're going to count them out to, let's see. We're we're going to count down to about 3, 4. All right? So breathe in, out. 1, 2, 3. We'll just do 3. Then 1, 2, 3. All right? Now let me see you. Keep doing those. In 1, 2, 3. Okay. So see, you got a tightening in the stomach thing going on. So what you want to do is you want to remember that there's an area back here. It's called your diaphragm. It's right here in the back part of the body. It sits there like the lumbar on a seat in a car. You want to actually now, if you're having that problem, figuring out how you're going to, it's not working for you, you keep taking a breath, but you find your stomach, instead of getting bigger, is getting smaller, then you want to now start focusing on just blowing up that pocket in the back, like you're like some kind of frog, and you need this to float. So when you go in through the mouth again, also you can put your hand on your stomach. Remember, the goal is when you come out, you push that stomach out. So watch my stomach. Not too much though, because you can hurt yourself. I just hurt myself right now. So let me see. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so she's got it down. So now I want you to take 10 of those breaths just through the stomach. And since he's already more primed, this is why you really want someone to help you, because if the Kundalini hasn't been moving, you do need someone to go in with the back of the hands and just and all they're looking to do is just stimulate the spine. You're taking those breaths. Now what you'll also start noticing is that you'll start feeling a little lightheaded. And now you're getting into that space. Right? So now the Kundalini is moving. And this is the most powerful position of the breathing technique is standing up. But there's some disadvantages. Keep breathing. The disadvantages are, if you happen to raise the Kundalini too high, you'll start feeling like you're going to pass out. And if you happen to kind of lose it because you're still doing these breathings, then you, of course, are going to fall. So that's why the second technique is you can actually do this while sitting down. But right now, what they're going to do is they're going to shift the breathing from the mouth to the nose. They're going to take those same breaths, making sure that the stomach is getting bigger while breathing through the nostrils. Now, here's the thing with this. You should feel something. If you don't feel anything, this means that you need to work on this technique a lot. Because even if you have something that can actually stimulate your back, like the chi boosters, if you use something like that, you can get back up and get into this position. The interesting thing is, once again, because this can be done in more ways than just standing up, the next level, keep breathing, is obviously sitting down. I'm going to go ahead and take Dan, and he's going to go ahead and sit down over here, Dan.
The one that was in front of the bed too, right? So if you lose, you just...
We're going to talk about laying down in just a moment. So the most common position people find themselves in is actually sitting down. Also, you can kind of relax into that breathing. Just get a little bit more louder so you can hear it. But of course, you want to get into that state. So this is what really accompanies the meditation more than anything. Meditation can be seen as boring unless you know how to breathe. Once you get the breathing properly, you can realize that you can actually get high on the air. It actually becomes a way to transcend your awakened state. And so this is also why in the beginning you want to really do this sitting down, because it's like the midway. Standing up, it's going to be the easiest for it to affect you. As far as you feeling that, oh man, I feel like something's going on. Especially if you have someone tapping on your back. Sitting down is the midpoint because we have another laying down position. But each of them are important because most people find themselves standing up in line. Right? So when you're standing up in line at the store or the bank, this is a great time to start to work on that breathing technique. And just remember, the more breaths you put in, here's some knowledge behind this. Why are you doing this? You're building energy. You're not only transcending the lower nature and giving it an opportunity to come up and transmute itself, but more than anything, you're actually you're creating the energy that is necessary for your future projections. So this is why I was actually talking about that meditation and manifestation are two different things. This is about meditation. Meditation should always accompany proper breathing. The reason is that in the meditation, you're not supposed to be thinking. If you're thinking about what you want and what you want to do, some people say, well, you need to meditate on what you want. No, you can't meditate on what you want. That's how to manifest. You don't think when you're meditating, you're just building energy. So I found in that 6 months that I talked about of just breathing that I went on, I built the future that I'm living in now. And I did that by not thinking about what that was going to be like, but just making sure that I had enough energy to whatever the projection needed, it can pull from that source of energy. So remember that's the key to all of this, is that you're just building up energy so that way when the awakened manifestations are going on, they have energy to draw from that you've been building up. And that's what the main thing is about this. This is why you actually want to get in there and do it. Second is obviously sitting down, and he's sitting down perfectly. He's got his legs. He could twist them in just a little bit more, because the main thing is you want to keep these circuits going. The other thing is, to bring this in a little bit, is you want to make sure that you have this kind of thing going on with your chair. If the chair is too small or the chair is too high, you lose this L in a sense. The more perfect the L, the better off the breathing technique will be because it'll restrict less things. So he's here, he's got the same thing going on, and this is a safer position because what you'll start noticing is you'll reach this point that you feel like you want to pass out, that you're getting lightheaded. And what that actually is the onset of transcending from the breathing into what some would say is out of the body. But it's really more of out of the mental body. You know, some people, but not all the time, you see yourself there. Now, here's another thing about this that you have to be conscious of. Like when he's doing the breathing right now, at a certain point, he's going to know when his tank is full. This is very important. There's a certain point where you're like, okay, I'm high on the breaths. So then you want to do what they call the big draw. The big draw is when you take in that final breath and you hold it. Okay, now, this holding is when the stomach is full of air, and you can imagine it like a magnetic field. How I was explaining is like the laughing Buddha's fat belly. That the belly is full of this prana, and it starts to generate a magnetic field. Now, this is actually what starts to bring you into because now what's happened, to understand the mechanics of why are you even doing this breathing, once again, is you're oxygenating your blood to bring about the implosion in your blood. But at a certain point, and this is how it's kind of like a mind hack, the body has enough oxygen. I mean, after all, you've just taken more breaths than you may take in a few hours. So what happens is that when you hold that big draw, the body gets to a point where it has its own personal timer that, hey, we need oxygen. But back there, and when you're in the meditation, you won't feel like you need the oxygen. And what will happen is the body will shut itself off, but the consciousness will stay on. And that's the door. So just so you understand, each process of what you're working towards and why you're doing this is first to, and remember also that diaphragm, which you have to work with, because it blows up like a balloon. The more you keep blowing it up, the more air it can take. But I said you got to take it easy at first, because you can actually feel the pain in that area when you blow it up too much. You go, oh. And it feels like your kidneys hurt. That's your diaphragm, actually. So what happens is that you want to work with blowing that area up a little bit. It's just a small pocket. But that area is actually what gets you into that altered state when there's air in there, when you're doing the big draw. All right? So that covered all the stages. There's only one more, and that's laying down. Now we find ourselves laying down most of the time. And there's no yoga mats or anything, so I guess I can just describe what it's
I've got
like.
one upstairs.
There's
Shall I
no
Yeah,
need.
good.
There's no need.
Well, what about
You're
here?
gonna be
I
like
can lie
this in
down.
the legs if I keep
No,
sending you
here,
up the hill.
this in the bedroom.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's get a mat real quick, just so we can finish this and do it all perfectly. And then in the meantime, let's just recap here. So this is the energy that the manifestation needs. Like I see it all the time, especially with this new age thing, and then the flower. What is it? The secret, and all this stuff. And they want to teach you how to manifest. Manifesting in the physical planes takes power. Everything runs on energy. So where's energy coming from? And this is why sometimes when people use psychotropics, because psychotropics have a bioetheric energy on their own, they can often attempt to use that energy to see into other spaces. But they also find things happen after that, like their spine hurts and different issues, because what they've done is they've taken all the fluids from the organs are generating different fluids. Serotonin, melatonin, fluids that basically we would classify as natural drugs. And these fluids are responsible for your different perceptions of thought and the ability of you getting into other spaces. But the more interesting thing is the quality of the fluid. Everyone is producing fluid, but let's say for instance like MDMA. MDMA takes the serotonin from the spine and pushes it into the brain in order to cause a euphoric feeling. But after too much MDMA, generally day 3, the person's spine hurts. They start having back problems, right? It's like, I got my back. And they're also very irritable because now there's no more serotonin. Even to give them that general level of being cool, it's all gone. So they have that snappy attitude, so then they got to go take it again, and this is the vicious cycle. But it's not just serotonin being produced. All of these glands and these organs are producing fluid. The quality of that fluid is determined by, 1, what you're eating. So that's sometimes what you think about when you're eating is like, can I really make rocket fuel out of this? So if you're eating good food, then that's the first level of your fluids being into the condition that's necessary to really do some massive manifestation. Without breathing, there's nothing. Like there's no energy really for the individual. And at that point, dark things could happen because the person's not using their own energy center to manifest their thoughts that come in their manifestations. Me, I never let the mind. See, we have to understand that the mind is actually a part, for a while, of the lower nature. It's actually connected to, until one wins the battle in their own body, there's all these desires that the mind has. So how do you differentiate manifestations from your thoughts of passions and desires? You let the higher mind do that, which actually doesn't think in the sense of how we understand and hear ourselves. So the goal is not to allow your energy, once you're building it, to get burned up and used up by ideas and thoughts. So that's why some people say, man, I'm gonna be all right. You know, I got faith, I got trust. Because what they're talking about is the realm of where everything has already been laid out for you. It's just about you performing the duties to clear the karma. As we talked about the other day, what is the karma? It's this life. This is the judgment. The judgment is how you come in here on the zodiac sign and what you're prone to and what your strengths, your weaknesses. Those are all the judgments already. So when you come in here to transcend those judgments or that karma, all you have to do is implode the vehicle. It'll do the rest. So the last stage is, who wants to lay down? I know somebody's probably ready to lay down. It's like, okay, so I'm not going to ask for any comments about what you felt, because, you know, sometimes people, they got to say, well, I felt something. But this is bona fide, because for me, the lady almost rolls my kundalini right there in the class. And I was like, okay, hold on. Because I was paranoid. This is like 6 years ago, like almost on the onset of the beginning. And I was taught this technique by a lady that was here. And she was coordinating a class inside of what do they call it? A sat. It wasn't a satsang. Yeah, it was a satsang. This is like church for yoga people on Sunday. There was a guru there. But they had that Sunday turn it into like a event, like a carnival. And she was one of the teachers. I sat in the class, I learned the breathing, and after that, I thought I didn't need anything else. True enough, it is a major part of everything that you will experience in the future if you learn how to do it. Here's the next thing. Your body will actually start doing it naturally. Now remember, we breathe reverse naturally now, because all the pressure, especially for a man, is in his chest. Even for a woman, it's in the breast. So we have a tendency to get all the shoulder chest thing going on even when we're breathing all the time. So in order for you to reverse the breathing, you now need to retrain the body. So a main part of that is when you're about to go to bed, which you spend most of your time asleep. So the part about what's happening right now when most people sleep is the reason why, even if they have the whole body breathing technique, that they can't actually tap in, is because generally when you're asleep, your feet fall like this. But as we talked about, the same thing happens when you're standing up. Your coccyx is closed. So what I do is I take the sheet, and you know how you do that in the bed, you curl the sheet under your thing right here, and you curl the sheet right here, and it naturally keeps your feet up. So now your coccyx is open. And then you're going to follow the same instructions of breathing through your stomach, and try to do this 15 minutes before bed. Especially your first time. It's like your first time somebody told you about lucid dreaming. It seemed like so easy, and then you actually lucid dream, then try to do it after that seemed to be the most difficult part. So at least get the first level of the experience, because when you start doing this 15 minutes before you go to bed, and the main thing is think about it is that 15 minutes is such a small segment of the day to invest in yourself. So you got your sheet tied under your thing, 15 minutes before bed, you go into the breathing, and you'll find this also makes it really easy for you to fall asleep. Just like how he feels. Like as far as you get so relaxed that you're ready to go to sleep. But what happens is when you go to sleep, the body goes on auto. So it'll keep doing the reverse breathing. And then what you'll find is the dreams will change. Also, to stay out of the netherworld, you can charge the body before you go to sleep. It's a big thing. Like, there's a few pointers before you sleep. Don't eat tons of food before you go to bed. I mean, they tell you it just doesn't hurt your digestion. What's happening is that all that serotonin, melatonin, and all that goes on with these planets, if they're tasked, now you've tasked them to processing, and you need to go to sleep so that they can help, fly the ship, basically. Now they're processing these beans, processing whatever you're eating. So the rule of thumb is, end it all. Okay, Okay, so let me tell you the segments. You want to really eat by 6. You want to already be done. Because then you can at least maybe get a little snack and something around 7, 8, somewhere in there. But you want to be in the bed before 10, 9, 10. For most people, 9 really. Because if you don't sleep between 9 and 12, you miss the first segment of the processing that needs to go on in your body. It's like a microcosm of the seasonal changes. Anybody who works out really heavy knows this. If you don't catch that period between 9 and 12, if you're not actually asleep yet, you miss that first stage of reproduction of your muscles. And then obviously you got the morning phases. By morning, everything should already be fully processed. So that's why it's easier for you to be lucid between 1 and 3 o'clock. Because the organs are only working on building this energy. And it has everything that it needs. It has the implosion, the oxygen in the blood. It has a good quality of these serotonin, melatonin, etc. And now it's ready for this consistent process, and you'll see the changes in the dream. So there's not too much more that needs to be added to that, unless we're going to drag out the recording. But that's what it is, and that's also the mechanics of why this is that's why it's necessary, because you become your own fuel supply. So at that point, also, you turn into a magnet. This is the other thing. We talked about this. Repelling versus attracting. Are you chasing money? Money is a magnet. Right? That's why it's got a magnetic strip. So what happens when two magnets are on the same polarity? They repel. But if one is in the other one, you attract. Right? So these are this is current and currency. But what happens with most people? They're doing gully things. They got crazy stuff going on. And then they are trying to attract something that they're alike. Because money, as far as the talisman is put together, doesn't have that many positive connotations to it. So then what happens is it keeps running from the person unless they end up working out the Kundalini situation. There's other mechanics. It's not an end-all, finish-all. Because, definitely some people are really utilizing the energies and doing different things with it. But I'm just saying for you, if you're trying to consistently stay on this path, and you also have to have that current going on, the configuration of the body is to put your body in the stage of a magnet. But obviously most bodies are electric. That's what they call it, the body electric. So they're tapped more in instead of to the magnetic, they're tapped into their electric side. So in this stage, they're actually repelling money. So they'll chase it and it'll elude them. Not to mention they're missing the energy for the manifestation. So do you see? There's a lot of different things that need to go on for you to get the calculation right. But the easiest way to do it is just breathe. And know when it's working. And if it's not working, holler at me. Meaning that if you can't feel anything when you're breathing, then we need to address other things. We need to address, okay, we need to talk about, and this may be something that if you've tried this before and it didn't work for you in these meetings that we're going to have, there's going to be at least 4 today. Holler at me about it so I can ask you some more questions about what's going on so we can isolate what's really becoming the issue. Also for men, get your Montauk Chai book, because if you're leaking all the time and you don't know the button at least, it's just going to be, all the fluids are gone. Like remember, the alchemical chamber is now taken on. Anytime you ejaculate, now it's got to create all that fluid all over again. And guess what? It takes that as priority. For the body, its number one hard-coded firmware priority is reproduction. So every time there's a loss of the reproduction fluid, this could also even be menstrual fluid, then the body is going to divert all power and energy to recreating in that cycle. Right? So it also means, though, that you can't allow this fluid to get stagnant. This is another thing that they fail to omit. They're like, send you out there for a year, you'd be almost cross-eyed trying to figure out how's this energy going to flow. So this is another main thing, is that this energy, it can't just stay there or it'll get spoiled. Right? This is male and female alike. If your sexual fluids do not move throughout your body, they spoil. So how do you get them to move? The breathing. That's why you start feeling orgasmic. And then pretty soon, here's the last key. It's what would be called the panacea. What attracts all things. What can build bridges to places otherwise there are no bridges? What can allow there to be a connection between those who do not share the same language? This is the pranic force, or the orgasmic force. And how this works is, some are so pranic and orgasmic because they've been doing these breathing techniques and cultivating their fluids. They can run out into this wilderness and animals will be like, hey, trees that you don't see the spirit body of the tree, but the tree. So that's why you get these goddess stories, and it's, like the deers and like Snow White kind of, the butterflies, because if you build up a strong enough field, it's magnetic and it's a great place to be. So anything still functioning on senses alone. Remember, that the animalistic side of the body is functioning on what we call the senses, because is there some time? Is it time? I gotta taper it up there.
It's 12:13.
Okay. That's 13 minutes after lunch?
Yes.
Okay, well, we'll adjourn here, but just remember what I was saying is that that the animalistic senses function, the lower part of the body functions on the animalistic senses, because to be continued.
When you're standing, you almost have that subconscious
For sure. Like, what happens is that it can even be an interjection, like, I think I'm about to.
Yeah.
It's working.
Anything starts.
And that's how you start learning the switch in your mind. And, there's more techniques that go along with this, but this is a very good place to start.
That big breath, the last breath after you've gone through it, you hold it till you can't hold it anymore?
Exactly. What it is generally between 30, for a beginner, between 30 to 50 breaths before the big breaths. And you'll see that that's not a lot, but that's when, the game they used to play is like, hey, take all these breaths, and then, I'm going to show you something. Then the guy punch you in the chest, and then you just knock out. But it's that feeling, but that's actually the onset to releasing the body and then allowing the consciousness to fly.
And you hold that big breath.
You hold that last breath. Now, you don't got to hold it until you, because this takes time, because you'll find that there's a balance in this, because you can cause headaches with yourself. You can cause too much strain and tension. So you want to take this moderately and work your way up, like the guy was trying to explain with the God helmet. Hey, you just start at level 1, but there's 3,000 levels, but don't crank this thing all the way up, because you need to now open this diaphragm, which hasn't been really used. And people even forget that air most people don't even know that air goes in there.
I thought it was in a totally different part of the body.
And the body just, the chambers connect back there, and there's 2. And they're small, we're talking about this much air. But this is almost like a fuselage lodge for a vehicle that drops containers. It's like when you see a rocket take off, its big container, right? And then it drops those other containers. Then at a certain point, it's only running on a certain fuel, and it's going to use that for the rest of the projection. And that's what you're doing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and enjoy this lunch. Also, you'll notice that you'll get very hungry after this, after the breathing, because now the body has burned up all of these toxins, and it's basically done all the work. It's like, okay, I'm done. I've processed all the food. I've, got the fluids in order. Now I'm ready to process again. But just remember, if you actually then go to sleep, because, there's always this enticement to eat before bed when your stomach is clear. Like, maybe I should eat because we want to be full. But if you just go ahead and take it to bed, which is the discipline, then you actually have a clear body and the vehicle is ready to fly. That's it.
Are there glasses up there?
Yeah.
They're not yours, are they?
Yeah,
I lost a pair of those just like this.
Oh, word.
just the details. Like sometimes that's what I'm saying on the past videos. Like,
Let's do it. I gotta beat you. You gotta beat
I don't know. Do you leave your glasses up there?
Yeah.
the button is actually right below the male scrotum and the anus. There's an area there that is always called the last ditch effort. But if one is engaging in practices and they're now looking to hold that, and even for women, this is very valuable because obviously your man, you know, you're going to send him into somewhere the next day and he's not going to be configured for that. That's why even athletes, they don't let them engage with women when it's, the Final Four and those final games, because you can't, no matter how much you think, perform to the extent of where you need to perform. But again, not also confusing it for not doing anything, monkism, to where that whole center goes dormant, which is a part of the old teachings, but that also allows the male to go into like a male menopause in a sense, to where he can't implode his system, so there becomes less being quick, smart, observant, sharp. If those things are missing, then the male is going to have a hard time succeeding in the gauntlet. So it's all about
At what point do you hit that button?
at the point where the spasm is about to begin. Now remember, this is dangerous because
Begin?
now, well, yeah, this is, remember, the button is like, emergency, emergency. It will stop the seminal fluid from entering in the chamber that spills it out of the penis, and it will keep it into the air, not into the scrotum, but there's chambers. I need to get the proper names, but there are chambers, so it'll keep it there. And this is like not half as bad. You see what I mean? It's like it's the last ditch effort. Push the button. Of course, even if the woman doesn't know anything about it, it looks kind of strange. She's like, "What is he doing?" But again, if you are attempting to work your way through this, because I think that what happens, because we have this whole inhibitions with sexuality and all these things that have been embedded by many of these religious structures. When this topic starts, a lot of people are like, okay, what are we talking about here? Maybe that has nothing to do with spirituality, but it has everything to do with it. If you're not orgasmic, then there's no attractive force, your magnetic field. But some people are able to accomplish that through different ways. So some people, they get like that on art. They just like go into this self-orgasm even with different things. So, if you find that there's something that drives that force, which gives you a stimulation, some people have found that nature does it for them. Like when they're in the wilderness, they start these breathing techniques, because there's also more to feed that. You know what I mean? There's more to cycle that with. So it's just about being able to tap in. And the first way that you can tap in is to first learn how to tap into yourself to get that feeling going.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
That's great.
Yeah, man.